Hey, welcome to today's video. In today's video, I want to talk about 4 different job titles within the data analytics and data science space and talk a little bit about what they do and what makes them different from one another. There's a lot of overlap between job titles in this industry, and sometimes somebody who's called a data scientist in one organization might be called a data analyst in a different organization. But there is a sort of spectrum of roles being really close to the business to roles being really close to the data that we can sort of conceptualize all of our roles along. So we're going to talk about the difference between a BI analyst, a data scientist, and a data engineer. And we're going to use this graphic to help us. This graphic is going to show us where they spend the majority of their time, the sort of technologies that they're working with, and we can think of those as being some things really close to the business and some things really close to the data. So if you're working in PowerPoint or Excel, you're doing presentations and ad hoc calculations, whereas if you're working in the data warehouse and in Python, you're spending a lot more time working with the data and less time talking to the business. So let's go ahead and get started. The first role that I want to talk about is the business intelligence analyst. Business intelligence analysts are the ones who are closest to the business and working most directly with the stakeholders. They're taking stakeholder questions and turning them into data requirements, and often they're doing their best to answer them with existing data and existing reports without having to go directly back to the data warehouse. And that's reflected in the sort of technologies that they use. They're going to spend a lot of time in PowerPoint. They might do some things in Excel that are ad hoc, or maybe they pull a small data set from a report or from the data warehouse, put it in Excel and do some calculations to try and project something. They might spend a little bit of time using Tableau and Power BI to make visualizations, particularly if they're advanced in those and they want to put those visualizations into a deck that they're sharing with business stakeholders. But the bottom line is they're going to be closest to the business, answering the day-to-day questions about what's happening. The next role that I want to talk about is the data analyst. Now, the data analyst is a step slightly further away from the business, but in a lot of organizations, business intelligence analysts and data analysts might really do the same sort of work. There could be a lot of overlap between those two roles. Generally speaking, though, a data analyst is going to be a bit more technical than a business intelligence analyst. In addition to being able to put things into PowerPoint, do complex work in Excel, they're also going to be working within Tableau or within Power BI to develop the dashboards that a business intelligence analyst or a business user might use to understand what's happening in their particular portion of the business. They might also spend some time in the data warehouse writing SQL and pulling out custom data sets, or working in Python to do some automation work, or even a small amount of modeling. But generally speaking, a data analyst is going to be pretty close to the business, but still with some technical work that they need to do. The third role that I want to talk about is the data scientist role. Data scientists are a step further away from the business again than the data analysts and the business intelligence analysts. Data scientists spend their time in Python doing modeling, sometimes in other programming languages, but also working in a data warehouse to try and pull data together and clean data, and sometimes working in business intelligence tools like Tableau and like Power BI, although that work is going to be left, generally speaking, to people who are closer to the business. Data scientists are the ones building the models and developing the models that are then deployed behind the scenes and used by data analysts and business intelligence analysts and even business users to try and understand what's happening in the business. The fourth role that I want to talk about is the data engineer. And the data engineer is a step even further away from the business than the data scientist. The data engineer is really responsible for all of the data pipelines that plug everything together and make sure that the data flows from wherever it's being collected into the data warehouse so that it can be used by people in the other roles. They're not necessarily going to be doing much modeling, although they may be responsible for helping deploy models and evaluate models. They may also be responsible for optimizing SQL code if there are queries or other things that were written by a data scientist or a data analyst that need to be deployed into a production environment. The data engineer is going to be responsible for cleaning that code up, making sure that it runs as quickly as possible, and then deploying it and maintaining it in a production environment. If there's ever missing data or poor data or things not working as they should, the data engineers are the ones who are going to have to jump in and fix it. So it's very, very technical. Really have to understand a lot about the infrastructure of the organization that you're working with, but less so interact with the business stakeholders, because that's going to be done by people who are using your data, not by the people who are maintaining the data. Hey, thanks for watching this video. We talked through 4 pretty common roles within the data analytics space. The first one is a business intelligence analyst. They're really close to the business, doing a lot of work directly with business stakeholders, presenting to business stakeholders and things like that. Then we talked about a data analyst, which has a lot of overlap with a business intelligence analyst, but maybe doing more technical work in a dashboarding tool like Power BI or like Tableau. And then we have a data scientist. Data scientists also need to understand the business, but they're a step further away, often working on more complex modeling projects in Python, doing less dashboarding, and working over a longer time frame than some of the other roles. And then finally, we have the data engineer. The data engineer is really providing the foundation for all of the work that all of the other analysts do, and making sure that data flows smoothly from the business systems all the way through to the data warehouse. I appreciate you sticking with me through this video. If you did enjoy it, then please like the video and subscribe to the channel. We talk about Tableau, Power BI, data analysis, data communication, and I'd love to see you again. Thanks so much.